So we've got to be nice to each other. Yeah, you have got to be nice to each other, kind of.
Hi, Bec. Welcome
Hi.
to When Nobody's Watching.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
That's all right, no problem. So you've done, 20 years as a psychologist?
Yes, and
does the science say that we should be doing annual awareness modules, or is there a little bit more to it than that?
Yeah, can I do a bit of an eye roll? You can do an annual awareness module all you like. It's a starting point. It's not going to change much, and it's certainly not the end point. There's a whole load more to it than just doing that one module. When I worked at Cranfield, we did some research into what's called skill fade. And basically what it is anything that's procedural or decision-making, if you're not revamping those skills, 8 weeks we worked out was the gold to keep it at gold standard, then those skills disappear. Yeah. So why would you want to do an annual module thing when it's not going to, that's not going to last. Yeah, it's not going to be there when you need it.
It's like that forgetting curve from Ebbinghaus in the 1860s. It was like you lose, 90% of everything within a week?
Yeah. Yeah, we were looking at sort of certain particular types of skills. But, I mean, how many times have you been, well, certainly I have, been on a course and it's great and I've really enjoyed it and, it's wonderful. And then by the time I actually get to use it 6 months later, it's like I've never been. I can't remember anything.
I always compare it to a speed awareness course, so I might have done a couple in my time. And I like the first week afterwards, I'm like, I'm going to drive to the speed limit all the time. And then within a week, I'm like, I'm speed limit. That's why I've done more than one speed awareness course.
Is this the time to mention I am actually a magistrate? So I don't speed because the headlines in the paper would be way too embarrassing. So I am very, very good.
Well, that's good. That is the question that I usually ask people when we talk about like behaviour changes. Have you ever broken the speed limit? And obviously, everyone says yes. Not legally for you, clearly. Yeah. But I'm guessing some point in your career, you have broken the speed limit.
When I first went for my interview for it, to become one, I had to fess up to the fact I got 3 points on my licence and take a bit of a lecture during the interview. So, but I mean, it's that motivation for why, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would say to people, have you broken the speed limit? And everyone obviously says yes. And I'm like, but did you know what the speed limit was? And everyone goes, well, obviously. Yeah. And I'm like, well, so you've done a theory test. You've done speed awareness courses, like I've done. You might have had points on your licence, like both of us have had them as well. It doesn't stop you from speeding when you get in the car, though, does it? No. So knowing stuff and doing stuff is like two completely different bits of your brain.
Kind of, yeah. I think that context is everything. People think that just because you know something, you're automatically always going to apply it, but there's a whole ton of other stuff that's going on around that. And I think that, the culture of the situation you're in is going to have an impact. What other people who are significant to you are doing is going to have an impact. Your mood on the day is going to have an impact. The pressure, I think, is another big one. We've talked about that before. I think that to me is the thing that changes everything. But everything is knowledge and behaviour. There isn't a direct link. Yeah. There is change. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff to get in the way of that.
I always say that if knowing something meant that you were going to do something, the criminal justice system just wouldn't exist, would it? Because you'd be like, the police would come along and go, you're a very naughty boy. And then you go, okay, really sorry, I won't do that again. And then that would be it. Yeah. We'd be reformed. Yeah. But that's not how that works, is it? Because people know what they should be doing, but either through sometimes through choice or pressure or whatever, they
just don't
do the thing they should be doing.
Yeah. And knowledge isn't everything. Like I say, it's the context of everything around that. I think it always makes me sort of smile when I think about security awareness. I think about when you go on you go on holiday, you go on the aeroplane, and you're supposed to watch the people do their thing, and you're supposed to read the instructions and all of that. So nobody bothers. But actually, if it came to it, you need to know exactly how you're going to open that overwing exit. You need to know which way the handle's going to go. You need to know that it's probably going to fall in on top of you and weighs 15 kilos. Yeah. And you could end up underneath it and then people tread on it and go. Anyway, it's like another story. But I think it's just that whole thing is that we don't always we're just not interested in it enough. And I think that certainly with... fashion time.
This is going to be juicy.
Yeah, this whole cybersecurity awareness thing, before I started working in cyber, to me, it was just like, it's nothing to do with me. I don't work in IT. I don't have anything to do with IT. The same as Cranfield used to make us do manual handling training.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I manually handle is getting a big, heavy book off a shelf. I don't need to know all of the rest of it.
Yeah,
so it's just that complete lack of engagement. What's it got to do with me? And quite frankly, didn't give a toss.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get phishing training and stuff at work, and I used to say, but if we get ransomware, I'm going to get a day off. Sounds fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
to me.
that's sort of more appealing.
Yeah. That's better. I'm happy with that outcome.
I nearly got phished, actually. It was a couple of years ago now, but it was a Friday afternoon, and it was just, to be honest, it was just like the gods lined up, all the circumstances lined up to make me fall for this thing. Because yes, I know what they are and I know what you should look for, but it was just a Friday afternoon. I'd had a really busy week, and it was supposedly from the HMRC. It's something about my VAT return.
Yeah.
Now, I'd literally, the day before, done my first VAT return without my bookkeeper holding my hand, because I'm a bit rubbish at things like that. So I just immediately went, oh my God, I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Panic. Luckily, I'd got a meeting with the bookkeeper on Monday, so I just forwarded the email and said, oh my God, you better add this to the list of things that we're going to do, because I've obviously done something really stupid. And then the phone rang and she went, do not do anything. Do not click on anything. Don't do. I said, no, I haven't. She goes, it's fake. It's a phishing email. I went, and then as the panic went away and I looked at the top and, you look at where the email came from, it wasn't even an attempt to pretend to be from HMRC.
Yeah.
All the red flags were like, here we are. And I
You'd missed it.
just missed it.
Yeah, but I think that's normal. I think people... We tell people what to look out for all the time, but in the context of the situation, if you're expecting an email from someone and there's an email arrives in your inbox that looks like it's from that person, why would you not fucking read it, click it, whatever?
Well, and I think especially everybody's really busy at the minute. I think that, pandemic sort of gave us a bit of a downtime, for some of us anyway. Yeah. But everything seems to have ramped right back up again. And I think it doesn't really matter what job you're working on or where you're working. Everybody's really busy, there's sort of cost of living crisis, firms are struggling to keep going, there's a lot of pressure on all from everywhere really. And I think that we haven't all got the time to sit there and take notice of everything. No. And I think if you think about the way that the brain works, it's a limited capacity information processor. So all it's doing is it's taking tons of stuff in from the environment, and we just don't really even think about how much information.
Yeah, like this light's bright and the fucking smells weird.
And you don't notice the feeling of the chair on the back of your legs till I point it out, and then that sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of stuff, and unless there's something sort of sticking out, like you say in your book, unless there's something to actually jump out at you and go, here I am, you don't notice it. So I think I wonder sometimes why there's so much emphasis on phishing awareness and things like that. Because how are you expecting people who have got a zillion and one other things to do to be looking for infinite detail?
I always think, I think exactly that. And I always think if one phishing email is taking down your organisation, I would suggest that you wider security problems.
Well, they're quite possibly, but that's the other thing. Oh God, I'm going on a rant now. That's the other thing that really gets me, because it's always the person who clicked on the link.
Yeah, why is the blip? That's where it started.
Yeah,
but there's a million other things that happened after that. Like maybe you've not got proper privilege access control or something, which means that person has access to too many things. Well, that's an IT problem. That's not a fucking person problem. The person who clicked the link's problem, is it?
Yeah. Have you heard of Reason's cheese? It's brilliant. It's cheese again, you see. Not that I'm obsessed. Guy called James Reason. It was something I used to teach at Cranfield with aircraft accident investigation or causality, and the same thing applies to cybersecurity. And it's called the cheese model because he drew it up as 4 slices of Emmental cheese, with the holes in.
Yeah.
And he said there's 4 barriers to things happening, and if the holes all line up, that's when something happens.
Yeah.
So the one nearest the accident is the unsafe act, he called it, the thing that actually went wrong. So it could be the person clicking.
Yeah.
But behind that is the next layer down is sort of the environmental conditions. Was the person tired? Have they been on shift for ages? Have they got stress at home? All of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The next slice of cheese back is sort of management and training. Have they been trained to do the job? Are their supervisors helping them to do it, or are they condoning cutting corners?
Yeah, it's like some of the
culture stuff. Yeah, and then at the top end of it, you've got the organisational stuff, which is the culture, the policies, the governance, and all of that sort of thing. And it's really good because when the health and safety exec go in to do an accident investigation, they are looking at all of those layers, and it's not about pointing the finger of blame at that person.
I think the aviation sector is somewhere that we should probably take a lot of examples from, because I've read that Black Box Thinking by Matthew Said, and that's all about how the aviation sector and the healthcare sector are two very different models of looking at like culture. And obviously the aviation sector doesn't appoint blame. It's not like it's your fault.
No.
It's, okay, something bad happened, let's look at
what can we
all
learn
of the
from
things around it and all the context that goes with it. And then, how do we learn? How do we learn from that? But I think there's, in a lot of organisations, there is that blame culture. It's like, if you click the phishing email, you're getting fired.
Yeah.
Well,
it's nice and easy, isn't it? And then we don't have to look at ourselves. The organisation can not have to look at the way it does things and the things that it's created that might have brought that along. And I think that in aviation, they call it a just culture.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the whole psychological safety thing. So actually it is about being open and being honest and not beating people up when they do something wrong. But it's not about not holding people accountable either. But we taught a lot in aviation safety, and we used to have a human performance and error module. And it was very much around, if you understand why people make mistakes, you will know when there's something where you've got to point a finger, when it's been a deliberate sabotage, then that's the time. But all of these other ways that mistakes happen, if you're deliberately pointing the finger and bollocking people all the time for that sort of thing, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
they're just not going to tell you. They're going to do it. They're going to cover it up, and then all of a sudden
you've got silence, and that's a much worse place to be.
Yeah, and I do wonder if there's sort of you talk about shadow tech and that, and I mean I'm not a tech person, but I gather it's quite a common thing. Well, why is it?
Yeah, so that's. I mean, we've talked about it previously, I think, where we looked at like the reason why you have shadow IT is because you want to get your job done in the best way possible. Well, you know what tools you need, but then the security team's going no. And it's just like a point blank now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still gonna fucking I've still got to do my fucking job.
Yeah.
So I'm still gonna fucking use it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's people not cooperating with each other. It's people have got their own shit to get done. So they're gonna just fucking
and your shit is nowhere near as important as my shit. So,
yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, I think that going back to what you just said earlier about psychological safety, I think that's something that I think organisations don't realise how important that is.
I don't think they do, because it's psychology's pink and fluffy stuff. Soft skills, that drives me at the wall, because these are actually pretty risky, important skills to get. Yeah. But anyway, that's a rant for another day.
I'll just later on.
Or later on, yeah, whatever. But yeah, psychological safety. So we've got to be nice to each other. Yeah, you have got to be nice to each other, kind of. To be respectful, to listen to people, to try and understand their point of view is all one thing, but also it's not psychological safety if everybody's so nice there's never any challenge.
Yes.
So it's about being comfortable with that. But I've worked in groups where everybody's really nice to each other, but things don't get done. There's no accountability. We don't necessarily even challenge each other's thinking because we're too busy being nice because we really like these people.
Yeah.
So, but it's a hard thing, and I think that we talk a lot about psychological safety, but actually building it and developing it can be really difficult, because if you go in at the wrong angle and you're too open, then that sort of shuts some people down. So I think, and I think also it's this cultural incongruence. So you say your culture's one thing, but if what you say and what you do doesn't match up,
yes,
then that's just destroying psychological safety. So I think people have got to be very careful.
Yeah, I've worked in companies where they're like, we're all one big family, and I'm like, no, you're fucking not, because you're firing people all the time for making like little teeny tiny mistakes. And I mean, I'll rip the fuck out of my brothers constantly. I'm not like shunning them out of my family. It's not a fucking family, is it? Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. And I think I hate hearing about things like that, because I think you wouldn't want to be treated like that yourself. So why would you think that it's acceptable to behave that way? But then again,
I think organisations often say they've got one culture, but actually they have a completely different culture. And saying and doing, knowing and doing, two very different things.
Absolutely.
You actually have to do the fucking action for it to be real. Like saying it without following through.
Yeah, no, it does. But then how many times you go into a company and you see they've got the mission statement, we've got the values, we've got them all on nice little posters around the wall, and we've got little certificates we give people for being the greatest, whatever, once a month, all of that sort of thing. But what, what I don't see is them actually doing anything more than speak the speak.
Yeah.
Now, bit of an aside. I wanted to become an occupational psychologist because I went through a culture change at a company that I worked at. And this is going back to the mid-90s. I was working as a PA part-time because I had a little boy for Superdrug stores. And I started working there, and I'd been there about a year, and they went through a massive transformational culture change. You know, the logo, the branding, the uniform, everything changed. So they got a bunch of occupational psychologists to come in and do a transformational culture change. And what that meant is that we had the mission and the values and all of the other stuff, but they also made sure they rolled it out throughout the whole organisation. So the drivers at the distribution centre up in Pontefract had a culture session. All of us in our office, the staff in the stores, the warehouses, we were all sat down and talked through, this is what it thinks. What does this mean for you in your job? How's it going to affect your day? What are we expecting from you? What do you expect from us?
Yeah.
I've seen that done that one time. So other things happened. I decided to go and do a master's, and that the rest is history, really. But any other sort of culture change stuff I've done, it's all about governance. It's all about policy. It's all about words. It's all about documents. You very, very rarely see anybody go out there and talk to the people doing the job about why it's important for them. Cue security awareness training.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about like security culture and building a good culture, and I think a lot of that does start at like the induction phase. Like if we can build it in from there, but then obviously you're going to have people throughout the organisation who have been there for a very, very, very long time. So how do you reach those people? Is it by doing that kind of culture session? Is it just by with some posters on the fucking wall, or what is it like? What do you actually need to do?
Put your posters on the wall, but don't expect. I think there's the whole thing. There's always a whole ton of different ways of doing it, and to me, the other thing that I don't see, and I think that'd be absolutely brilliant if people consider it when they're sort of putting security awareness in. This is a change management. Change management requires change management programs.
Yes.
And there's a very, very simple model that you can use. And it starts off, step one, know why you're doing it. So all of the senior people have made exactly why are you doing this? What are the benefits? What are the disadvantages? Why is it so important that we go through this thing?
Yeah.
The second bit then is to start communicating out to other people. But communication is not an at people, it's supposed to be with. If your message isn't landing in the way you intended to, then you haven't communicated it properly.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea is that's where you recruit people who are keen, enthusiastic, interested, and you start to ask people, we need to do a thing. What do you think about that thing? What's it look like from where your desk is? What's it look like from over there? You know, so anybody who touches the process needs to be represented in some sort of stakeholder group, and you ask people for their opinions. You ask them, this is what we're going to do. We've got to go and do it. This is why.
Yeah.
We need your help to design it. They join in, they'll do it, they'll spread the word.
Well, they're invested in it as well.
Yeah.
I think that is the security champions piece. I think that's also underrated within organisations, because if you get the people who are enthusiastic about it already, well, then their enthusiasm spreads to other people, because people don't necessarily listen to people above them; they listen to people on the same level as them.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because if you do sort of a network analysis of an organisation and compare it to the organisational chart, what you find is the people who are actually the influencers, if you like, dotted throughout the organisation, and not necessarily the ones in the box as managing on the chart.
Yeah.
So it's a really good idea to start thinking about, well, actually, who is positive, who's with us, who's on our side, and actually who are they in contact with, because that's the first sphere of influence that's going to go out from that. So I think if you can be quite strategic about the way you go about it, but nobody ever thinks of it. It's we've got a policy, we've got some rules, we've got some stuff, here's some other things, and just
everyone just go do it. I mean, when we run escape rooms with organisations, we get asked quite often, like, how do we decide, like, who to invite to it? And I'm like, the people that want to do it would be a good start. Advertise it, and if they like it, brilliant, because that's what they're interested in and that's how they learn. And then they will go back to the desk and then say, oh, I did this really cool thing today, and then other people follow on from that. But there's no point mandating everyone in this team has to do this escape room. So we've been asked previously, like, oh, we want to replace all of our security awareness training with escape rooms, and I'm like, why? Because not everyone likes them. Like, some people fucking hate doing escape rooms, and that's super cool because everyone likes their own thing. I think a problem with a lot of what we do in organisations is everyone has to have exactly the same experience. Whereas I think that's fucking ridiculous.
Well, I think it's a case of, it's just about everybody has to do the thing, and then I can tick the box to say they've done the thing, and therefore I have trained them.
I've completed my thing.
Yes, anything with the word mandatory. And I'll tell you, there's that meme, you must have seen it. It's the pig on Toy Story.
Yeah.
And it's sort of sitting there going, that I absolutely love that, because that is exactly how I did my mandatory training at Cranfield.
100%, yeah.
I'll tell you what, there was one, we used to have to do fire extinguisher training. When I first started at Cranfield all those years ago, they used to, because it's an airfield, it's got a fire station, it's got a fireman, and it's got a fire engine. So they'd put us in the fire engine.
To look at.
We did. No further comment on that. So we got in the fire engine, they'd drive us right over the other side of the airfield, and they would set a big, just fires, and we would put the fires out with the fire extinguishers. So I knew this big pan of oil was on fire. We'd be like, yeah, it's brilliant. And then be like an oven fire and a chip pan fire. I learned so much, and I remembered it. And then, of course, that got expensive, and the university grew, so we ended up doing click, 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 click. You see, it wasn't even like that, because it was just sense of boredom. But I think even just the word mandatory in front of it. Who's it actually?
I mean, as soon as someone tells me I have to do something, I'm like, I don't fucking have to do that at all. I am very rebellious in that way.
I think there's the rebellious, and for me, I'm lazy and I'm busy. So anything that's not on my list and it's on your list is
at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, you can send me some emails, and when you threaten to sack me, then maybe I'll engage. Well, I won't engage.
But you're not engaged. You'll comply.
I'll do it.
You'll comply, but you're not engaged.
And I will tell you I think it was always a thing for me, is that, can I get 100% without actually having to do any work and read it?
Yes.
Because a lot of the time you can guess. In fact, I actually did an evaluation of military annual training tests for the MOD quite a number of years ago. And what we found, we picked two different ones. We had equality and diversity, which is a very attitudey, opiniony, effective thing, and then we did law of armed conflict, which is, this is the way it is, and just sort of compared the two, and it was really interesting to see that for some things that it really works. With law of armed conflict, it's not changing all the while. You've kind of got to know, everybody gets the importance of it military wise, because you're not going to end up in a court in 10 years time for something that happened. But equality and diversity was something completely different, because it's what we call affective domain. So it's about how you feel about things, not the knowledge that you know. And what we discovered is that basically that training isn't working. And in fact, a few years ago, it's like, we're going to bin all EDI training because it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because you're not doing it right. Yeah. Because what they were doing was asking you a load of questions. And one of the guys in it actually turned around and said, I would just pick the most legal sounding answer. Well, yeah. And it worked, and they passed. So what are they learning from that?
Yeah, nothing.
Whereas if you got them in a room, exactly, and if you got them in a room to actually talk about things and why people think about the way they did, all of a sudden you've got people engaged. Why am I telling you this? And they're learning, yeah.
Okay, this week's Fix It in 60 Seconds. I hope you're ready, Bec. So this week we've got a security awareness quiz, and I would like you to fix it in 60 seconds. What is wrong with this quiz, and how could we make this better? So for people at home, we have a question that says, what is the strongest password? And then for variations of passwords for Bec to look at.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with this quiz. It's just not enough.
Yes.
You need to do more. So, I mean, for me, it's just like, yes, very nice. I've learnt that somebody is going to can answer this question correctly or incorrectly. So what?
Yes.
Because that's not actually going to change anything. Very nice. It's just the start. It's not the beginning. Do more.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the engagement piece is so underrated when it comes to most training. Like you said, you did like fire extinguisher training, and you're like,
I was engaged when I had big fun.
When you got to do it, but when you're looking at some slides, I mean, there's very little that you're going to learn from a slide deck. I mean, I always get really fucked off because when I do public speaking, I use a slide deck, and I'm like, why the fuck? It proper grips me that I have to use some slides to explain my point, because I'm like, my entire point is fucking slides don't work.
Yeah, but it depends how we're using them, because I bet you're not sitting there with X amount of bullet points on, and then a couple of like clip art pictures on just to make it interesting.
No, exactly.
No, exactly. You know, so I think it's.
But I think the value of engagement is so underrated, and I always say it's like, obviously, you know, I say it's very important to write a fucking book on it. But I always say it's super important because if I'm not engaged, I'm not, like, you could be telling me the state secrets. I'm not paying
in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, I'm just not paying any attention to it. It's like just straight over you.
No, it's absolutely key. I remember an academic many years ago telling me, "Oh, you can go and do that training over there. They'll like you." So why? Well, you do it. You do the entertainment thing. I'm not doing a tap dance. I'm putting them into groups and I'm getting to work together, and then we bring it back together and we have a bit of a laugh because some of the stuff we're talking about is not nice.
Yeah.
You know, so you kind of have some humour, and they're very good at humour, as you know, anyway. So that was that. But it was a way that it was very sneeringly said, "Oh, it's edutainment," and I just thought, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
that's
people.
a good thing.
I mean, I've written a whole chapter on this, but people think fun is a really bad word. And I'm like, fun and serious are not the fucking opposite of each other. You can have fun, and that, like, the topic you can be talking about can be super serious, but it can still be entertaining to talk about it. Yeah. Because, as I've said many times before, I've had loads of ugly boyfriends. Do I want to think about them? No. So I push that shit down, right? So all the bad stuff in your background, you push that stuff down, and all the fun stuff and the happy times and good memories, you want to remember that. Yeah. Your brain sits there and goes, "Oh, remember that really cool thing that you did."
Yeah.
So why, when we're trying to teach people about important topics, do we, for some reason, purposefully make it as dull as fucking possible?
Well, do you know what? I have quite a few thoughts on this. And I think it's... and this sort of links into the whole measures that matter thing as well, because you think about how... Oh, God, I'm the oldest one here. School. Just sort of thinking I might be going a bit down this sort of age-appropriate, inappropriate cultural reference now. But you think about, you go to school, you learn things, you do tests. You go to college, you learn things, you do tests. You go to university, you learn more things. So when you go on a training scheme, you learn things, you do a test. And I think that is so set in our psyche, that's what education looks like, or training, whatever you want to call it, that's what we think works. And actually, another piece that I did was understanding training delivery for the MOD, and it was massively enlightening, because what I found through doing that was that sort of training is based on behaviourism. So that was developed in the 1950s, so quite some time ago, and it basically means that all behaviour is observable, and that's where the whole system of training, like the way I've just described, comes in. Yeah, in the 70s, there was some things, a philosophy called constructivism, which is how we construct learning in our heads. And you know all of this because it's in your book, because I've read it. But it's all about experiencing it and doing it. And then you actually, what happens is that you have an experience, you learn some stuff, you add some more things into your mental model of how your world view, and then that model changes because you've learned something. And we go around that cycle and we learn more and we learn more.
Yeah.
But that's the way people learn. And I think that, where's that in the training that we do now? Because how many training programs are still done in that old... I'm not saying it's wrong. It's not wrong for certain
It's right,
subjects.
for some subjects and for some people it's right. Like when I was at school, I could quite easily sit through hours of people explaining things to me. Now, if you try to if it's more than about 30 seconds, I'm like, oh my God, like kill me now.
Yeah. That's why Instagram's so great, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then I've seen some people that are building like Instagram style micro learning, and I'm like, I get it, but also I think I'm engaged in Instagram for very, very long, embarrassingly long periods of time. I'll sit and flick through Instagram.
We'll talk about that later.
But but like I'll sit and watch stuff about like, I don't know, how to do fucking Bulgarian split squats. I'm not actually fucking any better at doing it at the end of me watching those videos though. I've not actually done anything. So it is just another information transfer. Here, let me tell you something. Yeah. And then here's the information. It's gone from my head to your head. Yeah. That's it. So there's no experience in there.
No. And this is the whole thing with this programme I'm building at the minute, because it's not how you talk, it's not what you learn, it's how you learn it. And there's certain things that you just can't learn in that way. You've got to experience it. So for example, what I will do is we'll have a workshop and we do some stuff, and there's a handbook that goes with it. I don't teach the handbook. That's there. You can go, you don't need me around to read that. So we just do exercises explaining, so here's a concept, let's do an exercise that relates to that. And they do it, and okay, so what do you think? Right, now let me explain briefly what happened, and then we move on. So we're just doing it's just exercises, very interactive. But, and this is where it gets difficult, is that in between the first module and the second one, you've got a journal.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you go away and you put this stuff into practice. Now, who wants to sit and write and do reflection and write stuff down? Nobody. It's boring. It's painful sometimes, and I don't like it. But if you do it, and you do it once or twice, and then 3 or 4 times, what you start to do then is you start to, when you're reviewing things, you start to just go through that list of questions, and you're actually learning, you're doing your own debrief. But trying to get them to do it in the first place is really, really hard. And I think a lot of that is because people have gone, we come into a classroom, we do the test and we go away. They don't actually see that you're responsible for learning all the while. And the way that I've been trying to persuade them to do it is just say, well, you get in the car, you drive home, you get on the train, you go home from work, something's happened that day and you're chewing over it in your mind. That is reflection.
Yeah.
That's doing a debrief. So you have got time to do it because you're doing it all the while, but you're just not doing it in a very structured way. Anyway, I've just completely gone off on one now.
I think
I don't even remember what your question was.
To be honest, neither do I. I think that's super interesting. And sometimes I think what we all want is for learning to be easy.
It's not.
And it's not easy, but we get asked, obviously, our cybersecurity training, right? But we get asked all the time, well, what, I've got to do it in person? Or we've got to get people, you've got to put people together. Or you've got to be in real life. Like, can we not just, is there nothing we can just send them? And I'm like, well, we've built stuff that we can just send them because people ask for it, right? And would be silly not to take the cash. But it doesn't, I always say, use that as that's like a secondary thing. The primary best way of doing stuff, it is the more difficult. Oh, sadly for you guys, it's the more difficult way. You've got, but fucking suck it up. Yeah. Like, that's if you want people. If it's important enough to your organisation and to you, it's quite important to you because it's your fucking job, right? Yeah. So it is important to you. So if it's important enough to you, do it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people, I think they just, it's that whole effort thing. And I think some people are up for it as fixed and growth mindset. So there are some people who don't want to do that, and there are some people who actually do. And I think the biggest thing from the stuff that I'm doing with cognitive readiness is that it's all about self-awareness. So if you've got no intention of digging down to find out why you did things and to look at it, and it works for the bad stuff, it works for the good stuff as well. So you understand why that worked well for you, then you can do it again.
Yeah.
If you understand why that didn't work for you, then you can change it. So next time your experience is a whole lot nicer, as is the experience of whoever was around you at the time.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think that it's about having that the willingness to be able to accurately look at yourself. And some people, that's not.
I mean, we do work with a lot of people in security awareness who are like, we really want to do something immersive, engaging, whatever, but I can't get the business to get on board with it because they just don't get why you would want to do it that way. And I have to be frank with people and go, yes, it is more expensive because we're putting a lot more fucking effort into it, right? But if you actually want to move the needle on some of this stuff, then it does have to be engaging. People do have to participate in it, like actively be there in the room. Because if they're not actively being there in the room, they're not fucking paying any attention to it, are they? Like, I struggle with like the dichotomy of the arguments that I have with people. I'm like, yes, you have to be there. No, we can't just fucking send it round. But then at the same time, they also go, well, it's super important to us. I'm like,
there's that culture thing again, words and actions not matching up. Yeah, it does my nutting. And I think that I wish people understood that human factors, behavioural science, psychology is a scientific discipline with people who've trained. It took me 7 years to train fully because I did my first degree part-time for a very long time. And that actually we have quite a lot of knowledge that could be useful to you in getting people to behave in the way that you want.
Yeah.
And yet it's always seen as an afterthought, just as something that's tacked on. I remember once...
I think people don't realise that it's behaviour change that they're after, though. So they think that what they're after is people knowing things.
Yeah.
They don't. So they're just bringing people to tell people other things. They don't actually realise.
1950s model, yes.
Yeah, but I think what people maybe don't understand about security awareness is it's not anything to do with knowing. It's all to do with how you behave in the moment. So to be able to test that, you need to fucking practice it, and that's all about behaviour, and it's got jack shit to do with knowledge. I mean, find me a person in an organisation who doesn't know what a phishing email is. Like, there is no one.
Yeah.
Unless you fucking is your first day at work. But even then, you know what it is at home. Like, you know not to click on scams, right? So everyone fucking knows it. So it's clearly not a communication problem in that way. It is a behaviour change thing. And you're right, we don't look at the people outside of the security team in the organisation who could be helping us with that shit. I mean,
it's not seen like that. Well, it's because they're the weakest link. So, but if you're being called weak and stupid, and you know, why would you actually bother to engage with a person that's calling you that? Because if someone's not being very nice to you, I know what I do. Fuck, start asking in the opposite direction. Not doing, you know. No.
I hate that people are the weakest link. They're not the weakest link.
I am surprised.
They're the biggest attack surface. I don't know why we said they're not the weakest link. They're just the bigger. There's just more of them.
The chances are, statistically, more likely.
And they're at the beginning of the attack chain as well.
Yeah. But, you know, it's just easier to blame someone. It's easier. And again, that goes back to the whole self-awareness thing. Do organisations, as an organisation, look and think, are we responsible for creating any of this? And in fact, I've just written a paper on how, or you know, where the sort of the pressure comes from in cybersecurity and senior leadership.
Yeah.
And you think, well, actually, yes, we can look at senior leaders, we can make them more resilient, we can wring our hands about burnout, but are we actually looking as an organisation of the environment that we're creating for our people? And I don't know that we're ever going to go down that road, because there's a whole, there'll be dragons, isn't it, really? You know? So I don't know. I just think it's a difficult one, really. And I do think that to expect full compliance, like you were saying right at the beginning of the chat, that's never going to happen, because if everybody complied to everything, the Ministry of Justice wouldn't exist and accidents wouldn't happen and.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be some sort of recognition that you're never going to get 100%. But I think there's also lots of different ways of going about it. And I think that we've just stuck on that awareness piece as being the first one. I did some work on social identity theory a few years ago. It's actually with Nikki Me. That's how I got to know her.
Ah, cool.
And what the sort of outcome of that was sort of to look at and thinking, well, there'll be some people who are very keen, very enthusiastic. There'll be some people who don't give a shit over there. And there'll be sort of other people like, oh, well, I'm not sure, I'll wait and see. And people are, I guess, crap, but and then they'd sort of join in eventually. And I think if you're catering for different people's levels of interest in different ways, you kind of got a better coverage there, you know? So rather than just that one little piece at the beginning and expecting amazing things, you know, you've got to look at other people, and that goes back to the whole thing about change management and getting people involved.
Yeah, and it's hard to, that's our whole culture piece. I mean, it's that with the escape rooms that we do, we'll take them to an event, and then some people will be in the background going, can't think of anything worse than this. But as soon as they see other people enthusiastic and getting involved with it, then they're like, oh, actually, it's not so bad. Actually, have a go at this or whatever. But I think if we had to cater for just the people who are like super interested in it, then you would just kick everyone else out of the room and be like, don't fucking bother being in it because you're not super interested in it. And then you'd end up with people being left out. But actually, it's interesting to see how like people follow what other people are doing and like the sentiment in the room and that kind of thing. Do
you find then that the cynical ones sort of like the ones that are hanging back a bit, and and then one of them will go and just do a little thing, and then the next thing they've shoved everybody else out the way.
100%. So we did. We built our soccer room at car manufacturers' offices, and there was this woman who'd come along, and she was like, "I don't like escape rooms. I don't like escape rooms." And within like 5 minutes, she's like, literally, we've filmed her session, and she's literally at the front going, "Anyway, right, you guys are doing this, and you guys." This is how it's going to work. And I was like, I thought you fucking didn't like, dude. Okay.
Like, but they're the best times, though, aren't they? When you've converted that cynic.
Yeah.
And the quicker you can do it, it's even like, oh, yeah, we're doing this right.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I just think it's a real shame. I think it gets me, especially when there's so much the defence have done and so much that aviation have done. And even healthcare's, I mean, it was sort of probably about 20 years ago that I started to get asked questions about what can we take from aviation into healthcare. None of this is rocket science. It's been done before. Why are we not? Is it, I mean, because I'm a psychologist, not a tech person, I go, oh, you only like shiny gadgets, you know? And I think that there's all manner of preparation goes on with the tech side of things. You know, buying the tech, pen testing, monitoring
everyone loves a blinky box.
Yeah, exactly. And there's all of this attention gets paid to the technology.
Budget wise, it does. It's like 96% of your budget goes on tech, and like 4% goes on people.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more people, and they're the weakest link. Like if they're the weakest link, spend fucking more money on them then.
And actually, suddenly brain's going to explode now. So you've got all of that. So why aren't you interested in the people who are actually manipulating the tech and using it from either end? But any piece of tech has got people hanging off it.
But I think it's because humans are unpredictable and people don't want to, or they can't get a dashboard out of them.
Yeah.
Or a meaningful dashboard out of them. So how do you show the progress? How do you show this is what the risk looks like? Like how do you quantify all that kind of shit? They don't know how to do that, and there's no box that you can put everyone in, so it's like, well, we'll just pretend that.
Yeah. Or actually, you don't even. I think sometimes it's too difficult, and sometimes it's like people don't even know these things exist. So you know, it's like when I first went to Cranfield, I went with the intention of becoming a change management consultant. Never went anywhere near it. Got seduced by human factors in aviation. I didn't know what human factors was before I went there.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think as a profession, are we bad at letting people know that we exist, how we can support, what we can do? But it's just so happens that for me, it's been, rail, aviation, defence.
Yeah.
They're all really high risk industries.
Yeah.
And to me, cybersecurity is equally high risk.
But it's a weird, isn't it? Because the cybersecurity cuts across all industries. It's not like the cybersecurity industry exists within itself.
Tesco's is on the front line. The NHS are. You know, bank. Everybody has got cybersecurity, and I hope that there's a sort of thing, because it's relatively new. Over the next sort of 20 or 30 years, things will change.
Yeah.
But then you think, well, actually, look how quick AI is changing. And that has massive implications. And I think that there's going to be a lot more requirement for people, critical evaluation, critical reasoning, critical judgment, thinking skills, all of that sort of thing, I think is actually going to become more valuable because of what's going on with AI at the moment. I had this conversation a couple of days ago, actually, which was saying that, yes, it's going to be a very valuable thing. People need to be able to critically evaluate to understand the AI because it can't be trusted.
Yeah.
But yet we trust it immensely. But we'd never critically evaluate social media, do we? And what's on Facebook and our post, think Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going with that one really. But to me, I think that the human isn't out of the loop. But
I think the human needs to be firmly in
the loop. Yeah, I mean,
we use AI extensively in our organisation, but it all gets run past. Like, we don't send anything out to a customer that hasn't had a human evaluate. Like, what's the output of that? Like, even if it's just like summarising meeting notes or whatever, it's like, right, does that actually all make sense? Is that what was actually discussed? Like, check the fucking work of the machine.
Yeah, and use it, because we love things that make things easier and quicker, because that's what our brains want to do. So there's no reason why you shouldn't. But I think it's about understanding the limitations. I saw a lovely comment on somebody's LinkedIn post. And it said something about, our organisation have implemented AI, mandated it. That's it, mandated use of AI, but they hadn't thought about what they wanted to do with it, why they actually wanted to do that. And just anything that board have said, we're mandating AI, and I just thought, and there it is, FOMO, isn't it? We're fear of missing out. We think that everybody else is doing it, therefore we've got to do it. But then why doesn't that apply to cybersecurity?
Because it's not shiny enough.
Because it's not shiny enough.
It's not exciting.
No. Well, some people think it is. It's very exciting if you get somebody's ransomware attack and you lose your business. That's quite, that's up there in terms of arousal.
Yeah, 100%. Bec, that has been, I think, the most fun conversation I've had in a long time.
Oh, good.
But before we go, have you got anything that you want people to maybe do differently on Monday morning? Like, what is the final kind of thought you want to leave people with?
Oh my gosh, that's I wasn't prepared for that one. I think for me, it's about having appreciation that human beings are complicated, but there's a whole bunch of experts out there who understand how they work. This is not rocket science. It's been done many times in defence and aviation. If something's not working right in your organisation and people aren't doing what you want them to do, it's data. So that they are telling you in a very, very, very subtle way that there's something wrong. Stop blaming them, start taking that data and work with a professional to work out what's going on, because life could just be so much easier.
That has been brilliant. Thank you so much. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.